the all-party parliamentary group wrote to the Foreign Office, and the Foreign Office says, no, we haven't heard about it. That is not true. There is nothing that the British government does not know. They know everything. They know more than what we know. And it's very shameful to write a letter to a member of parliament saying that, no, we don't know about this genocide. We will ask our embassy to find out. So our embassy knows a lot more. And the British government, of course, is working with the Ethiopian government. Maybe they have some ideas on which they agree. But there is so much being done as well, and they should really get their voices heard. And denying facts like genocides in Benishangul Gums is not really the way to go about it. And really, thank you very much, those of you who brought up these 4 cases. And I assure you, there are thousands of cases that are similar to these 4 cases. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I just say 2 things before we carry on? Obviously, we are here to listen to you. But I think it is very important that when we criticize the British government, we are part of it. You are living in Britain, and I can see today so many young Ethiopians who are second generation. And especially I am very thankful to the Amnesty International who is working on behalf of you. Strengthen them. Write to your MP. Go to him. Meet him. And I know we have today at least 3 parliamentarians. There is a young lady sitting who is from human rights group. So write to them. Go to them. This is your country now. You live here. You pay taxes. You work here. You study. So please make sure that you speak to your parliamentarian. Only don't depend on David Anderson or Mushtaq Lasharie to do your work. We have to have an active Ethiopian community who is living in Britain and get united as well, because you are divided, and I know that. I sit in Costa Club and Dr. Trueman chairs the meeting, and I know you have got local difficulties in the country there, but leave them behind and work for only one issue, and that is the fair and free election and human rights, and then you will get the result.
Thank you. Sorry? Sorry, I can't see you. I don't know.
Yeah, so I'm not blaming anyone. Thank you for the great work. The situation in Ethiopia is getting worse from time to time, you know.
Can we just check that everyone can hear? Should we use the microphone?
You can't hear me? I will raise my voice.
You can come forward.
I would like to thank you for the good work you are doing. Dave Anderson, Lasharie, and all of you have been supporting us, helping us to echo our voice. I know that, and we have got to thank you for that. People are speaking from the suffering people are going through in Ethiopia. So we have to give some sort of, they have got some excuse for that. I'm not talking for them, they can talk for themselves, but the situation in Ethiopia is getting very worse from time to time. Until 2005, people were expecting that the government is going to improve as it goes ahead, because it came to power in 1991 and it was taken as kind of transition. But after 2005, the government became very cruel. It became to punish peasants. It was priding itself that it was working for peasants, but the peasantry is the worst hit now. They are evicted from their land for the past 10 years from 2005. Things are getting out of hand. People continue to be evicted from their land. The suffering is very deep. The starvation is the outcome of it. The development that has been, that the mass media has been talking about, the World Bank has been telling us, is never true. 8 million people, by the word of the government, about 3 million people are starving right now. the starvation has been continued for 24 years. It continued. The sad thing is the aid money that is going in is used to suppress those who are starving. The money we are giving from here is going to punish the already hit people. So how is it that we are going to echo that? How are you going to help us that? We want to hear something about it. How is that David going to help us? That our voice must go to the government. They must be very serious about it. Repression is not going to produce any productive relationship between the UK and oppressors everywhere. Now we see that. Ethiopia is on the same road now. So what is that you are going to help us? What sort of help can we expect from Sir Wolfram? You have been helping us, I know that. So what is that we are going to expect from this meeting? That is the most important thing. We must do something. We must get out of this room with some hope. That is what we are discussing.
Okay. So this lady,
First of all, thank you so much for this opportunity. As a UK citizen and as a taxpayer, I would like to ask a simple question to the UK government. As a person who is also from the Ogaden region, if there is no international media allowed into that region, and if there's no NGOs allowed into that region, and to report from the actual what's happening in that region, how can the UK government be so sure that the £300 million it spends on aid to the Ethiopian government, that it reaches the rightful people, that it's used for its purpose? Every year that we see that the people in need increase, every year we can see that at the moment the paper you've given us, it shows that in 2016 there will be more people in hunger who will need more aid. Why does the money that the UK government gives does not make any difference or change? And how can they know that it is used for its purpose?
thank you. Would anyone like to answer that question?
Well, there will be various reports that the government makes that will say where the money is spent. Well, there's no doubt that in Ethiopia, as in every other part of the world where aid is being spent, there will be, to put it mildly, leakage. Whether it's corrupt or whether it's just badly organised or whether it's deliberate interference, there will be issues where money will not be well spent. And that is just the inevitable reality of the world of aid. It doesn't make it right, but that's what happens.
But the fact that there's no international media allowed into that region, and the fact that there are no NGOs allowed into that region, doesn't that make it obvious, and isn't that evidence of human rights violation in that region, in the Ogaden region?
Yeah, almost certainly. Yeah, and I'm not an apologist for this government. I'm anything but that. I detest this government with vengeance. But my own government wasn't much better either. And again, it goes back to what I said before. They're looking at the overall global position and thinking it's probably better to put aid into Ethiopia to try and have an ally in that part of the world as a buttress against other people who might not be friends of the West and friends of the British government. Now, that might be a harsh thing to say, but that might be just the political reality that the government and the Foreign Office are taking as the best position they can come to. And it isn't fair, but we don't live in a fair world. And all we can do is keep campaigning and getting information from people like yourselves and trying to raise this and get the government to do the right thing. That's clearly what we intend to do from this meeting tonight.
So as a taxpayer citizen whose family and relatives is back home, and the money I pay for taxes is used to torture my families, what advice would you give me to speak?
Where do you live?
Yeah.
Where do you live in this country? Who's your MP?
My MP is, I live in Brantford.
Actually,
In Brantford, near Hounslow.
Ruth Cadbury is your local
Yes.
MP, I suppose.
Yeah, I forgot.
Go and meet her and ask her to write a question and then...
what Mushtaq said before, the more people who say they want MPs, the better it will be. They'll be coming in here asking the questions you want to ask. I can ask them. We spoke earlier on about the guy who's from Islam. Now I know that these little MPs have done things, but the more people who raise an issue, the better it will be. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But I mean, if it's one person doing one thing, this is probably 2 or 3 years since we last met on Zoe this year. We know, we can do so much in this group, but there's also an Ethiopia group which is made up of MPs, which names we can circulate. And what we need to be getting to them and saying, look, this is the reality as we see it on the ground, not what we're being told. What are you going to do about it? We can do what we can, but as Mushtaq said earlier, everybody in this room has access to their own MP. And they should be, go and pressurise them. They'll want to be nice to you, don't worry.
Thank you. Yes.
I heard people talking about the starvation which is going on currently. But there is a hidden starvation going on for the last maybe 20 years, I can say. We call it even in our language, Ora. If I translate it to English, break dinner, breakfast and dinner only. There are people which are working in earning, but could be able even to eat once in a day. If that is not starvation or hunger, what would you call it? It was happening just before this hyped up starvation, which is about, they call it 8 million, 15 million. But most of the people are hungry. That is, the cause of that is the failure of the government. Though so much money is being given in aid, the living standard of the people is always down. And the failure of the British government, or those governments, Western governments which are giving aid to that government, is they are not following it up. They are only seeing that simple thing, saying that, oh, it is our friend, or that government friendly in protecting terrorism. But once people start getting hungry and starving, where do they think they are going? Those people are going. So it is better for the British government to realize and come to reality and ask the Ethiopian government to behave. If they don't behave, they should stop this aid, I tell you. People are still starving.
Thank you. It's the lady there in the middle.
I don't think it's good enough for us to use the excuse of saying that it's not a fair world, especially considering the role that we play in aiding Ethiopia. Also, as Juweriya highlighted earlier, all of these cases, what they have in common is that the person either has a Canadian passport or a British passport. What about those that are living, apart from, is that there's a lot of cases that we don't know about, and I think there's no point in treating the symptoms. We have to look at the problems, and we have to look at this from the roots and look at the role we've played in supporting this repressive regime. And I don't think there's a war on terror. I think there's a war on the Ethiopian people and the citizens of Ethiopia and the conditions that they are living in. And we have to challenge the policies that prohibit us from entering Ethiopia and to hold independent investigations. I just don't think that with the amount that we're paying and the influence that our government has over Ethiopia, that we are doing enough.
I agree with you completely.
I just want to make a few remarks. First, why the human rights violation happening? Part of it is the government wants to protect its power. They want to rule forever. Part of it is the silence of the democratic world. Because the democratic world keeps quiet, things are happening, people are killed, the people will hurt, people are abducted, and the democratic world keeps quiet. For economic reasons, for other reasons, for various reasons. With regard to UK government, the minimum the UK government should do, in my view, is to ask a return of the favor. They get their money. When you give some money to somebody, then that person owes you something. They can ask, please don't torture people. They should say it publicly. The minister will tell you, I met the minister of Ethiopia, then I expressed my concern about it. Why can't they say in front of the British public, who they represent, that this country, let the world know, and the British authorities also let the world know, their people know, that that country is doing something that is not right. My second point is about, we talked about people who have been tortured, who have been imprisoned, and so on, abducted. The previous speaker also mentioned about people who are also starving, who are working and starving. I want to talk about the way the general people, the common people in my village where I came from, live. It is under like a security law where people are careful about what they say. If they vote against or if they vote in favor of the opposition, they expect next time to be punished in the form of not getting the government favors, the fertilizers. And when there is a drought or famine in certain area, that area is generally ignored. For example, in the East recently there was a drought, and the government denied, we are self-sufficient and so on. Now after 5 months, after probably people have died, most of the cattle have died, now they acknowledge it. Therefore, people are discriminated against for their views. That is how this government stays in power. That is part of the other dimension of human rights violation.
Thanks a lot. In relation to human rights in Ethiopia, few names has been raised, but it's more than that. There are the Ogaden jail, called number 1 in Jijiga, is accommodated 3,000 prisoners. The rape, the torture, the killing in that jail is massive, and there is no record for that. The second jail in Ogaden, 2, is in Gode also. 1,500 prisoners are in that one, and nobody knows who is in, who died. A lot of parents are standing outside to see their loved ones who died a year ago, 6 months ago. International community are not allowed to visit. The international community who aiding Ethiopia because they are fighting against terrorists. The regime itself are terrorists. How will you fight against terrorists when you are terrorizing your people? How would you fight? The regime existing in Addis Ababa are terrorizing their people. How would you expect to fight against a terrorist outsider? I think the human rights violation, the torture, everything is massive in Ethiopia, and we cannot solve this issue in this room. But as you said, we have to, the international community in general has to stand up and say Ethiopia, for example, the only means the Western are aiding Ethiopia, the current regime, is that because of what we learned from Saddam Hussein when we overthrow from Iraq, that we couldn't get what we wanted. So we are saying that if we throw the current regime of Ethiopia, then who will come? Who will be next? Someone we don't know, worse. But we are saying that let's keep the one we know in power. Who is terrorizing these people? I think we have to do more, understand that the international community, the Western civilized society, knows better about what's happening in Ethiopia, especially in Ogaden. Nobody can go. There's no way. Nobody will go there. Journalists, politician, international community, NGO, no go area. Nice. So we have to, I think, do more, make contact to our MPs, and press our government to do more, especially the European Union, who gives more aid to Ethiopia, should stop the aid first of all, unless they get what they can accept in terms of human rights. But to say that if we stop this money, the Ethiopian population will die or starve, that means you are killing this authority in Addis Ababa. The money you're giving them, they are using as a weapon. They are killing the people.
Thank you. There's a comment behind you, and then I think what would be a good idea is to maybe just share what actions, things we can do. We all agree there are endless human rights violations, atrocities happening in the country, but we do need to start thinking about combined actions and in a way forward. So I'll take the comments from...
Thank you very much. My question is for Amnesty International. According to international law, the country who they expel the NGOs, that's a criminal, war crime. It happened today in Sudan, Darfur, when the Sudanese government expelled the aid and NGOs. They are around the world, United Nations being emergency meeting, and they're saying the Sudanese government are making the war crime. In Ethiopia, the Ogaden and area being expelled all NGOs, no ICRC, no MSF, not even one NGOs for United Nations. Not allowed to journalists, and still that country they support United Kingdom, United States, and United Nations. My question is why? What's the difference Darfur and Ogaden? Thank you.
I'm not sure. Amnesty International is very public. It only goes into a country with permission. The Ethiopian government doesn't give us permission to go to Ethiopia. We don't go. It's, I can't speak for the other countries, but maybe I'm not sure. I think other organisations can sometimes go in surreptitiously, but Amnesty is very open. We only go in openly. If the government doesn't want us there, we can't go. I'm not sure what else.
Would you like to sum up? I
don't think we can do anything as Amnesty.
Can I request two things? Number one, please leave your names and details because there is a paper circulating. We will keep you informed about our future activities. But I think one thing is pretty sure that the British government can do so much. They said it, other MPs. We have met the ministers. We went to the Foreign Office to see them on human rights a couple of years back, and then the minister went and he publicly criticized the Ethiopian government on human rights. We remember that he was a obviously different minister than we have nowadays, but he did raise these issues. When he came back, he was removed. So